You're listening to a production of the National Media Archive. To learn more or volunteer, go to nationalmediaarchive.com.
Picture this. Families gathered around a bucket of crispy chicken, laughter echoing as mashed potatoes and gravy are passed down the table. For decades, Kentucky Fried Chicken KFC wasn't just a meal, it was an American ritual. Now, what made KFC so iconic? Two things: its secret 11 herbs and spices recipe, and the unforgettable branding, those red and white stripes, and the Colonel's smiling face. This wasn't just marketing fluff. In the 1970s, KFC had more U.S. locations than even McDonald's. Think about that, twice as many, in fact. They dominated the quick service restaurant market, or QSR for short, before it even had a name. But let me ask, have you ever wondered what it was like when KFC felt unbeatable, or why that golden era faded? Let's dive in, because beneath the crunch, there's a story of innovation, expansion, and ultimately, struggle. Let me tell you a story. Before he was the Colonel, Harlan Sanders was a kid forced to cook for his siblings after his father died. By age 12, he left school and home, chasing odd jobs: farmhand, streetcar conductor, even insurance salesman. His big break? In 1929, Sanders opened a gas station in Kentucky. Hardly glamorous, right? But he converted a storage room into a dining area and began serving chicken, biscuits, and vegetables. That's what we'd call a pivot in today's startup lingo. By 40, Sanders had a 142-seat restaurant and motel. And here's the kicker. He didn't just sell food, he sold an experience. The Colonel became a walking, talking advertisement, his personal brand, as powerful as the chicken itself. Now, you might be thinking, was he just a mascot? Not at all. Sanders was a relentless promoter, driving cross-country to pitch his franchise concept, building up over 600 locations before selling KFC in 1964. So next time you see that smiling face on a bucket, remember, it's more than a logo. It's the legacy of a self-made entrepreneur who leveraged both recipe and reputation. Let's set the stage. 1964. Colonel Sanders sells KFC to investors for $2 million and an annual salary. Overnight, the brand shifts from family-run hustle to corporate enterprise. These new owners are what we'd call scaling specialists. They turbocharged expansion. By 1970, there were 400 KFCs. That's exponential growth, a business term for rapid compounding increase. But expansion comes with trade-offs. What do you lose when you go from local favorite to national juggernaut? Quality control, brand intimacy, and sometimes the very thing that made you special. Now, you may ask, isn't growth always good? Not necessarily. The new regime prioritized volume over tradition. Recipes were streamlined, processes automated, a classic case of economies of scale, but at the risk of alienating loyal customers. It's a textbook dilemma. How do you keep the soul of the brand alive when you're opening thousands of stores a year? Let's talk competition. By the 1970s, KFC was the king of chicken. But fast forward, a couple decades, rivals started hatching everywhere. Boston Market popped up in the 90s with rotisserie chicken spit roasted, not fried. That's product differentiation, offering a twist on an established favorite. Then came Chick-fil-A, which in 2013 surpassed KFC in U.S. chicken sales with fewer than half the locations. That's a feat in operational efficiency, meaning they squeeze more revenue from fewer outlets. Now you might wonder, why couldn't KFC hold its lead? Simple: the market shifted. Newcomers offered healthier options, fresher branding, and crucially, better customer service. So here's the lesson. Being first doesn't guarantee you'll stay on top. In fast food, the race never ends, and KFC's competitors weren't just catching up, they were leapfrogging ahead. Let's get into the kitchen literally. What happens when you mess with a winning formula? KFC found out the hard way. Over the years, corporate owners tried tweaking Sanders' original recipe, aiming for cost optimization. That's business speak for making food cheaper and faster. But at what cost? Colonel Sanders himself called the new gravy wallpaper paste. Ouch! They even launched Kentucky Roast Beef, a spin-off chain, plus menu detours like spare ribs. That's what marketers call brand dilution. When you stray too far from your core identity, people forget what you stand for. Now I hear you. Isn't innovation good? Absolutely. But innovation without respect for the brand's DNA can backfire. Customers longed for the Colonel's original flavor, not fried dough balls or experimental gravies. It's a classic case of losing sight of your roots. In the scramble for new markets, sometimes you leave your loyal fans behind. How many hands can pass the chicken bucket before it spills? Let's trace KFC's dizzying ownership timeline. After the investors, KFC lands with Hubline, a liquor company famous for Smirnoff vodka. Then, in 1982, it's snapped up by R.J. Reynoldses, the cigarette giant. That's what's known as diversification, when a company branches out far from its core business. By 1986, PepsiCo soft drink titan acquires KFC, uniting it with Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. Suddenly, chicken was bundled with cola and tacos under one corporate roof, a conglomerate setup. Now, you might ask, did all this help or hurt KFC? Well, frequent ownership changes made long-term strategy tough. Each new parent wanted their own spin, from menu experiments to co-branded outlets. By 1997, KFC spun off into Yum Brands. But after decades of shuffling, the brand's focus and some of its magic had already faded. When Colonel Sanders died in 1980, KFC lost more than a founder. They lost their story. How do you replace an icon? KFC tried everything. Cartoon colonels in the 90s, celebrity impersonators in the 2010s. At one point, Reba McEntire donned the white suit. That's brand revival using nostalgia to reignite interest. But it wasn't always smooth. Remember the Grilled Nation campaign? KFC asked the UN to recognize a fake country of grilled chicken lovers. It backfired, coming off as tone-deaf and even disrespectful. Now, imagine you're a long-time fandos, a rotating cast of colonels make you feel connected or confused. That's the risk of brand inconsistency. In marketing, authenticity matters. Without a clear voice, KFC struggled to tell a compelling story and customers started tuning out. Let's talk about the elephant or maybe the fried chicken in the room, health. As Americans became more health conscious, KFC's deep-fried legacy became a liability. Here's a technical term, trans fats. Until 2006, KFC used these in cooking oil, which are linked to heart disease. After lawsuits, they phased them out, but the damage to the brand's healthy image was done. They tried rebranding as KFC to ditch the word fried and introduce menu items like grilled chicken. But these efforts, including the infamous Double Down 2 chicken fillets as a bun, often backfired or fizzled. Now, you may ask, can a fried chicken brand ever be healthy? It's tough. When your core product is seen as unhealthy, even your name can become a hurdle. So, in a world of kale salads and plant-based burgers, KFC found itself on the defensive, trying to adapt without betraying its roots. Let's dig into reputation because in fast food, trust is currency. Over the years, KFC faced more than just culinary criticism. Franchisees complained about poor support, animal rights groups staged protests, and customers grumbled about slow service and outdated stores. That's a breakdown in operational excellence, the behind-the-scenes systems that keep a chain running smoothly. And then there were the rumors. Did you ever hear the one about KFC using genetically modified chickens so extreme they couldn't be called chicken? Completely false, but persistent, a classic case of urban legend damaging a brand. Meanwhile, rival Chick-fil-A built a reputation for stellar service, which only highlighted KFC's shortcomings. In the end, reputation isn't just about food, it's about trust, consistency, and how well you handle criticism areas where KFC too often fell short. Now, here's a twist. While KFC stumbled in the US, it soared overseas. In fact, since 1997, international stores have outnumbered American ones, making up over 80% of all KFC locations. China, for example, embraced KFC. It was the first U.S. fast food chain there in the 1980s, adapting menus with local flavors, think rice, porridge, and egg tarts. That's called localization, tailoring products to fit local tastes. Why did this work? KFC became a symbol of Western modernity and convenience in emerging markets. They capitalized on first-mover advantage, being the first to establish a foothold. But here's the catch. With so much focus abroad, did KFC take its eye off the domestic market? Many would say yes. So while KFC's story in America is one of decline, globally it's still a powerhouse, proof that reinvention sometimes means looking beyond your backyard. So, what can we learn from KFC's roller coaster ride? It's a classic tale of reinvention, resilience, and the perils of losing touch with your core audience. Brands are living things they need to evolve, but not at the expense of their soul. Whether it's sticking to the secret recipe or embracing new markets, balance is key. If you're building a business, ask yourself, how do you scale without sacrificing quality? How do you innovate without confusing your loyal fans? KFC's story isn't finished. With new competitors and changing tastes, the next chapter is being written right now by customers, franchisees, and executives alike. Let me end with a challenge. Next time you see those red and white stripes, think about the legacy, the lessons, and what it takes to keep an icon fresh in a world that never stops changing.